Hello, it is Friday, and it is session 5. So we are producing language for effect today. So we're moving away from our hook text and all of our reading skills and moving more into our writing unit now. So language for effect can only be used when you know what the effect of the piece of writing should be. Take a moment to reflect on the text The Water Tower and ask yourself how the author wanted you to feel. Not how you did feel, because everybody might have felt differently about the book, but how did the author want you to feel? What was their goal? What was their intention? Okay. Now you've got that in your head, ask yourself, how did the author do that? How were they capable of achieving that goal? Make a list of all of the things that you think that the author Gary Crew did. If you need to read the book again, please do. So think about us being stood at the front of the classroom, us being me and Miss Clarkson, and we're going to be, in your mind, producing that we would like to for effect. So think, I'll set you off. So one of the things that Gary Crew did really well was use empty words, and he did that by using the words it, something. For example, it said there it stood. Instead of saying there the water tower stood, it was there it stood, and then something moved at the top of the tower. Something Bubba couldn't quite make out. The word something indicates that we don't know anything about it, and that was done to create the effect of making you feel a little bit uneasy. So think of all of the things that he did in addition to that. I pause the video now. If you are working on Teams, so listen carefully please, if you are working on Teams, you will need to pause the video, go to the writing channel, and I will have put the question, what did Gary Crew do? So, what did Gary Crew do to achieve the effect? So on Teams, in the writing channel, there will be a question from me today. What did Gary Crew do? And you need to write your list on Teams. If you're working on paper, then you will be able to grab a piece of paper and jot down your ideas now. So pause the video and crack on with that first task. And then when you've done it, press play and I'll speak to you again. So the effect of the book was to thrill, and our purpose for writing the next unit is to produce our own thriller narrative, a story that thrills our reader. It's not supposed to scare our reader, and it's not supposed to horrify our reader. It's supposed to thrill our reader, and what that means is make them feel uneasy, that feeling of ugh that you get. Okay, not scary, where your heart is racing and your hairs are all on end, or horrifying the reader where you feel really disturbed by something really gross that's happened. It is just a, oh, I don't like this. Whoa, no, I don't like this kind of feeling. So think about those devices that you've just written down and let's compare them to what I've come up with. So visual language is really important in thrilling because we want our reader to truly understand the way that our characters feel through their actions. So we don't want to just say, oh, they were scared. Okay, you want to say their eyes widened and their mouth dropped downwards. Personification, really good in thrilling because that makes us feel a little bit creeped out, because things that shouldn't be alive should not stand watching like the water tower does. Empty words I've already talked to you about. Repetition is important in thrilling when the repetition is a word or a phrase or a theme that is not very nice. So take the water tower. They use repetition of the words the water eddied and swirled to show that when it's empty it's still moving, and that's really important. But it also has a repetition of the theme of like death, doesn't it, and darkness. So that's really important as well. Even though it doesn't say the words like dead, it says like rotten, festering, and that's kind of repeated throughout. Even when Bubba said, oh, I could have dissolved, like I nearly dissolved down there, what, he nearly wasted away to nothing. That's the same as like decaying, isn't it? So again, linking to death. High levels of detail of the surroundings. So think, for example, you know, when it was talking about Bubba being on top of the water tower, and how it was scorching and searing. It doesn't bring a nice image in your mind when you put all of that high level of detail. You want to plant the seed that something is not right. So right at the beginning, we knew that the security fence had been torn down, but not just torn down, it was almost like things that shouldn't have been able to be twisted, like the metal poles had been. So that was the plant of the seed. This is not a normal place to be. Short, simple sentences. So a little sentence, then a longer sentence, so that you've not then told them exactly what's going on, so that when you're reading, you're saying, come on, what's going on? Come on, what's going on? And a lot of the children at school, when we read the text this week, that's what they were saying. Oh, tell me what happens next. Ellipses are going to be used for that ... keep them waiting suspense, and appeal to the reader's senses. So when Bubba was inside of the water tower, he noticed the way that it sounded and the way that it smelt, and there was talk about how things felt. Remember the word searing on his skin, which was like burning his skin. So those are all really important, and we'll be referring back to these quite a lot of times throughout this unit. Right, your task. You've got this resource, as you can see here on the screen, and it looks the same whether you're on Paperpack or Teams. So there is space below it. I've cropped it off, but there's space below it for you to do your work. So you've got 6 images from the book, 6 of the illustrations. They are all labelled with an associated letter. So I have image A, B, C, D, E, and F. You will have your favourite of those images, but your task is to choose 3 of these images. Okay, so have a little think now which ones those might be. Now, for every single image, you're going to write your own words, phrases and clauses, including as many of the features from that we would like to list. So when you get started with the task, you'll need to go back to this video and rewind it a little bit so that the we would like to's appear. So you will then have all of this space below here to start typing your answers in. So let's say, for example, I want to choose illustration D. I would then write D below, and then I would start to do all of my writing underneath it. When I finish D, I would then go underneath that and say I wanted to choose C there. Obviously, I wouldn't go backwards in the alphabet. I'd do it in alphabetical order, but hey ho. Then I would write C below it and do all of the task there. So you can do, I'd like you to do really the minimum of 4 words, phrases or clauses for each illustration. We're going to take a look now at what the finished task might look like. So I'm going to show you a little bit of guided practice before you are free to work independently. So here is my illustration. Now I've chosen the front cover because it's not one of the ones that you've been given. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bits of text that relate to this illustration. So I'm going to take a little look up here now and read each one to you, and I will analyse how I've linked them to the we would like to's. So, invasively scrutinising the town for signs of life, the entrancing tower poisoned the minds of its victims. So scrutinising is personification. A tower cannot scrutinise. The entrancing tower poisoned the minds. I apologise because I shouldn't have used an apostrophe there. Sorry, it's not the correct use of an apostrophe. My bad. Typing too quickly, guys, and not rereading and editing and improving. It's very bad. Poisoning the minds. We've also got more personification there, but it's also a hyperbole because it's a massive exaggeration. It's not poisoning anybody's minds, is it? And I've also, for just dramatic effect, used the word victims. It stood watching, waiting. So it as an empty word, stood watching, waiting, more personification, and of course the entire thing is a short, sharp sentence. I think in hindsight what I'd like to have done is of used, I don't know if you can see these coming, I'm trying to do some little ellipsis dots, done that would have been nicer. I think should have done that there. Okay, gathered in the dim green light radiating into the valley below, a crowd of villagers who were standing frozen in time like statues stared up to the tower lifelessly, their eyes glazed over as the glow of the tank reflected in them. So I've got a much longer sentence here. Grammatically, I've got frontal adverbial. I've also got a relative clause off the back of that frontal adverbial, and I've got personification. I've also got subordination. So I've got a lot of things in there, but what we're looking at right now is the effect. So I've got dim green light radiating into the valley below, which is about the senses. A crowd of villagers who were standing frozen in time like statues. I've got simile there, so similes maybe should have gone on the list before, but frozen in time, that is, instead of just saying they were stood still, I have used a bit more visual language, and then I've extended the visual language with stared up to the tower lifelessly, instead of saying they weren't thinking of anything, and then more visual language, their eyes glazed over as the glow of the tank, more about the senses, reflected in them. This is all high levels of detail, because it's really building up a picture in my reader's mind. Final one, without a sound, the thick green layer of grime slowly started swirling silently and then stopping as suddenly as it had begun. So a bit more of the empty words there. I've used alliteration as well, which I didn't put on there. Lots of S's in this one. The reason why, there's a special name for it actually when you use S's all the time. I'll try and post it in the writing channel comments, because it sounds like a snake. Slowly started swirling silently, stopping as suddenly. And it's not a nice noise. Instinctively, we as humans are programmed, if you will, to respond in a like negative, protective manner when you hear the sound of like snakes. So it's done on purpose to make you feel uneasy. And I've got more information about what is going on and the senses. So that is an example there of what you would need to do. Obviously, I haven't done everything on that list, so what I would ask you to do is to go along and kind of check things off and try and get all of them covered, all of those points covered across your 3 pictures. So to clarify the job, you've got 6 pictures. Here they are. You will choose 3. For those 3 pictures, you will write at least 4 words, phrases, clauses for each. There will be big bragging right points for those of you who do more than that and put the extra effort in. Well done, you'll get a shout out on Teams. Whoop whoop. So you need to do 3 pictures, but minimum of 4 things for each. So 4 times 3 is 12. So a minimum of 12 things across the 3 pictures. Across those 12 things, you need to try and make sure you've covered everything on that we would like to checklist. So scroll back to the we would like to checklist in this video, keep it up, and then start to work. As I mentioned earlier, Teams, paper packs, you are typing / writing below the pictures. Okay, they will not move. I don't want you to make them move. They are labelled A, B, C, D, E, or F, and you will have to write the letter and then do the work next to the letter. So there's no writing in bubbles, and there's no reason for you to panic, because you will be able to type everywhere underneath that document. Okay, so as always, we are waiting by the computers to have a look at your work when it's done. Please don't just take the easy option and do the bare minimum. It's still important that you are trying just as hard as you would if you were at school. As I said, those going above and beyond will get a special shout out. Okay, right, good luck, and I will speak to you next week for more writing. Bye.